Another deep dive. We're in game week 24 now, and you've got a pretty big decision coming up. Do you use your triple captain chip on Mo Salah? Obviously, Liverpool have got a double game week coming, but is it really as simple as that? We've got some great analysis from a recent Fantasy Premier League podcast discussion, and we're going to dive deep into this one and try and figure out the best move for you.
Yeah, it's a classic FPL dilemma. And there's more to it than meets the eye, I think.
So let's start with the elephant in the room, Salah's form. It's been a bit underwhelming lately. Is this just a little blip, or is there a cause for concern?
I think it's worth looking a little bit beyond the goals and assists. His underlying numbers, his expected goals and assists, the XG and XA are down, which suggests that, he's not quite performing at the level we've come to expect. In fact, his XGI against Ipswich was just 0.35, his lowest of the season.
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty worrying stat. Is there anything in particular that might be contributing to this dip in form?
Well, I think one factor could be opposition tactics. Teams are very aware of the threat that Salah poses. They're double teaming him, forcing him into wider areas, disrupting his usual flow. It's making it much harder for him to get into those high-value scoring positions.
Okay, so we got some tactical masterminds trying to shut him down. And on top of that, we've got the double game week fixtures. Bournemouth and Everton. Not exactly the easiest opponents, are they?
Not at all. Bournemouth are pushing for a European spot, playing with real confidence. Everton, under David Moyes, have looked much improved, and they'll be fired up for that Merseyside derby. Away games against both of those sides, Liverpool are going to have to fight for every point.
Yeah, Bournemouth especially. They've been really solid defensively. So those fixtures, do you think they're a serious cause for concern, even for a player like Salah?
Yeah, I think they're definitely something to consider. Both Bournemouth and Everton have shown they can frustrate the top teams. And their defensive solidity just adds another layer of complexity to this triple captain decision.
Okay, so we got this form question mark hanging over Salah. And we've got these tricky fixtures. But he is Mo Salah. And he does have a history of producing magic even when the odds are stacked against him. He had some massive holes away from home last season.
He did. I mean, that 18-pointer against Newcastle, the 21 points he got against Tottenham, those spring to mind immediately. Salah's a player that can punish any team on any given day. So writing him off based purely on the opponent or the venue, I think would be a mistake.
Absolutely. So even though the fixtures might look a bit daunting on paper, we can't rule out the possibility of Salah just exploding in this double game week. But this decision isn't just about one player or one double game week, is it? It's about your whole chip strategy. So what if you're thinking about holding back the triple captain? How might that play out with your other chips?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you've still got all your chips available, your bench boost, your free hit, your wild card, this becomes an even bigger strategic decision. There's a school of thought that says holding off on that triple captain now could allow for a really explosive bench boost in game week 36, potentially paired with a wild card in 35 to set it up. There's usually a monster double game week later in the season that you could target.
So we could hold off now, navigate this double game week strategically, and then just unleash the chips for maximum impact later on. It's tempting.
It is very tempting, and it kind of all ties into your overall FPL goals for the season as well. Are you chasing a top 10,000 finish, battling it out for mini league glory? Your position and your goals should really inform your chip strategy.
Yeah, so even if you absolutely love Salah, you might decide that playing the long game, holding those chips back, that's the best move for your specific situation. It's more than just points. It's about what actually gets you closer to your goals.
Exactly. Sometimes the most strategic move is the one that maximizes your chances of hitting that ultimate objective, even if it means, sacrificing some potential short-term gains.
All right, so I think we've established there's no easy answer here. Salah's form is a bit of a concern. The fixtures are tricky, but he is still Mo Salah. He is still capable of those huge hauls. And then on top of that, we've got to factor in our overall chip strategy and how that aligns with our FPL goals for the season.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. A lot of moving parts to consider. It's important to weigh them all up carefully before making that decision.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork, but we've got a few more intriguing options to explore before we can confidently advise you on that triple captain dilemma. We'll be right back after this.
Okay, so we've talked about Salah, we've looked at the fixtures, and we've even touched on that broader chip strategy. But there's another layer to this decision, I think. And it involves a brand new chip that's kind of shaking things up a little bit this season.
You're talking about the assistant manager chip, right? The one that everyone's buzzing about.
Hmm.
But nobody really quite knows how to use yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one.
Ugh.
It's a fascinating addition to the game, and it throws a real wrench into the works when it comes to traditional chip strategy. So could this mysterious new chip actually influence our triple captain decision?
It's so tempting to just hold on to it, isn't it? And just see what happens. Maybe use it in like a really crucial moment later in the season. But is that the smart play when you've got a double game week staring you in the face and Mo Salah's tempting you with that triple captain chip?
Yeah, it's a tough one. On the one hand, you could argue that the triple captain on Salah is the more known quantity. He's a proven asset, even if his form has dipped a little bit. Whereas the assistant manager chip, that's a complete wild card.
Yeah, we've got no historical data, no way to predict how it might play out. It's exciting, but it's also pretty nerve-wracking. Is there any way to even approach this strategically? Or are we just in the realms of pure guesswork at this point?
Well, I think one approach could be to try and analyze the potential upside of each chip. So with the triple captain on Salah, you're essentially betting on him having a monster double game week.
Hey.
Goals, assists, bonus points, the whole shebang.
Yeah. And with the assistant manager, I mean, who even knows? What if it backfires? What if we use it and it actually hurts our team? It's a gamble, for sure.
It is a gamble, but I think it's important to remember that the triple captain itself is also inherently risky. It magnifies both the rewards and the consequences. If Salah blanks in this double game week, well, you've essentially wasted a valuable chip.
Oh, absolutely. And on the flip side, if he hauls and you didn't triple captain him, oh, you're going to be kicking yourself all season long. It's like the ultimate FPL dilemma.
It really is. But before we get too caught up in this Salah versus assistant manager debate, there's another player I think we need to talk about, one who's emerging as a potential differential pick for the triple captain.
You're talking about Cody Gakpo, right? The new Liverpool signing. He's starting to find his feet in the Premier League. I've seen his name popping up more and more in the FPL community. And there are whispers about a Gakpo triple captain gamble. Is this madness, or is there method to it?
Well, let's look at the facts. Gakpo's shown glimpses of his potential, and his recent performance against Ipswich was really encouraging. He had an XGI of 1.15, which is a good sign that he's getting into those dangerous positions, and he actually bagged 2 goals and an assist in that game.
Right, so he's clearly capable of putting up big numbers, and he's playing in that Liverpool attack alongside Salah, which is bound to create chances. But the big question mark with Gakpo is minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. While Salah's pretty much nailed on to start both games of the double game week and play 90 minutes, Gakpo's minutes are much less certain. He's still settling into that new team, and Klopp might be a bit cautious about overplaying him, especially with 2 games in quick succession.
Yeah, that's the risk you take with those differential picks. Higher potential reward, but also a much greater chance of disappointment. If you triple captain Gakpo and he only plays 60 minutes in one of the games, oof, that's a massive blow.
Yeah, it is. And when you compare the risk-reward profiles of Salah and Gakpo, it's pretty clear that Salah is the safer option. He's a proven FPL asset. He's nailed on for those minutes, and even if he is in a slight dip in form, he's still capable of delivering a really solid return.
So while Gakpo might be tempting for those chasing that big rank jump, Salah just seems like the more sensible choice for most FPL managers, especially those that value that consistency and guaranteed minutes, over the allure of that high-risk, high-reward differential.
Precisely, but I do think it's important to acknowledge that there's no single right or wrong answer in FPL. What works for one manager might not work for another. Ultimately, the best decision is the one that aligns with your own personal goals and your circumstances.
Yeah, so if you're leading your mini league and you want to consolidate that position, playing it safe with Salah might be the best approach. But if you're trailing and need to make up ground, well, maybe take a gamble on Gakpo, or even hold out for a later double game week with a different chip strategy.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It highlights the importance of understanding your own risk tolerance and how that should factor into your decision-making. Are you someone who thrives on taking risks, or do you prefer to play it a bit safer? There's no right or wrong answer. It's all about finding the approach that works best for you as an individual.
So we've explored Salah's form, those tricky fixtures, the assistant manager wildcard, and even the Gakpo gamble. But there's one more crucial element to consider before we can make our final recommendation. It's something that often gets overlooked in the pursuit of points and ranks, but it's arguably the most important factor of all.
And that is?
It's your mini league. How does your league table look?
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in those overall rankings, isn't it? Chasing those top spots, the bragging rights. But at the end of the day, for a lot of FPL managers, the real battle is happening in their mini league.
Right. So even if all the stats, all the expert opinions are pointing you towards a certain decision, you got to take a step back and say, okay, what's going to give me the best chance of actually winning my mini league?
Exactly. Let's say you're neck and neck with your biggest rival at the top of the table. They've got Salah. And you know they're probably going to captain him in that scenario. Matching their captain choice, even if it's not the most statistically optimal, might actually be the safest play.
Yeah, because if Salah hauls and you've gone for somebody else, well, you're giving your rival a massive advantage. And if he blanks, well, at least you're both in the same boat. It's about minimizing that risk, isn't it? And maximizing your chances of staying ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. But then again, what if you're trailing in your mini league? You need to make up some serious ground. Well, in that case, taking a calculated gamble on a differential captain, like Cody Gakpo, that might be your best bet.
Right. Because if Gakpo hits big and Salah doesn't, well, suddenly you've closed the gap, put yourself right back in contention. It's all about understanding the context of your own mini league and making the decision that gives you the best chance of achieving your goals.
That's it. That's the beauty of FPL. It's not just a numbers game. It's a game of strategy, psychology, and understanding the dynamics of your own unique mini league.
So where does that leave us then with the big question? Triple captain Salah or not?
I think we've explored all the angles. We've analyzed his form, the fixtures, the impact of those other chips, the allure of the differentials, and of course the importance of considering that mini league context.
Yeah, we've thrown a lot of information at you, but ultimately, the decision is yours. There's no magic formula, no guaranteed right answer. It's about weighing up all those factors, trusting your gut, and making the choice that feels right for you and your FPL journey.
And remember, even with all the analysis, all the strategizing, FPL is still a game of chance. There will be unexpected twists and turns. Players will perform above or below expectations. And sometimes, Lady Luck will just have the final say.
Absolutely. So don't beat yourself up if things don't go exactly to plan. Enjoy the ride. Embrace the unpredictability. Right. And remember, even the most seasoned FPL managers make mistakes.
Yeah, the important thing is to learn from those mistakes, adapt your strategy, and just keep striving to improve.
All right, well, that's all from us for today's deep dive into the triple captain dilemma. Hopefully you found it insightful, thought-provoking, maybe even a little bit entertaining.
Good luck with your decision, and may your arrows be green.
Until next time.